Yeah, I think the guy you want to go after is probably the number 3 wide receiver in the offense, but it's Darius Slayton. And year after year after year after year after year, we see Darius Slayton when he gets given the opportunity, he delivers. And I think this offense now sees that he is a really good deep threat, which is something they're lacking right now because Nabers and Robinson are being used as the short to intermediate players. And Darius Slayton is once again going to have some value. You're going to get him for free because Nabers is coming back. I think he could really be, one of those two goes down, and we saw what Slayton is. So he's going to, I see no reason to leave him floating around. If you're in any sort of wide receiver trouble or depth trouble, he's a good player.
Yeah, the thing I like about Slayton too that I think he could have a little value is he's a guy who's being tossed around the rumor mill a little bit as potentially getting traded. He's a
Yeah.
guy who could fill in like the chief slot role excellently.
Well, the question was that a showcase game, right? They kind of like put him out there, got him some manufactured
Mhm.
targets, a lot of like what Kyle Pitts is being rumored to have done. And yeah, what does that mean for Darius Slayton?
Yeah, I think it's a good speculative ad. I do worry if the Giants offense is as good as like we think that maybe it could be to support a third target. That's I think the big question with Slayton. So very speculative, I think, in that sense. But I don't mind having, him if I need him for a spot start. So all right. Let's go ahead and let's go to Eric here with your in the scope target.
I'm going to do my favorite thing and not follow the rules. I'm going to give you two, or at least one, and an honorable mention. My official one is Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver for the Houston Texans, sub 1% owned kind of guy. We talk a lot about duplicative skill sets on this show, and Xavier Hutchinson is kind of the one of those things in the Texans wide receiver room that is not like the other. He is the one that is the closest to replicating Nico
Big
Collins'
son of a
skill set.
bitch.
Obviously he won't come in and perform quite like Nico Collins from an upside standpoint, but he's the one that fits most organically into that role. You look, like I mentioned earlier, Nico Collins played about a quarter of that game. After that point, Xavier Hutchinson was the second highest snap count wide receiver among the Texans. He outsnapped Tank Dell. He had a 71% snap share following that injury. He does a lot of the needful things. He's a willing and capable blocker. These things that are going to get him onto the field in a very potent Houston Texans offense. And because he only turned in a 2 for 31 effort, I don't think anyone's really going to be going there. So you can go out and put a $0 bid or just grab him at 3 a.m. or whenever you want to wake up and potentially get a guy that will have a somewhat significant role in the Texans offense.
Mm-hmm.
And in my honorable mention, TJ Hawkinson should be returning any day now. He is available in like a third of leagues or so. And the Vikings are heading into bye. So no one's really going to be looking for him because he's not going to have any projected fantasy points on the board this week.
All right. I like it. I like it a lot. I'll round us out here with my in the scope target. It is none other than Erick All Jr. If you drafted Mark Andrews, if you drafted Evan Ingram or Dave Njoku and you need a speculative tight end stash, I think it's Erick All Jr. He is the rookie tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. He led the Bengals tight ends in snaps the past 2 weeks, 60% in week 4, down to 52% in week 5. He had 6 targets in that span. The next closest was our guy, Mike Gesicki, who's providing some value early, but it looks like the tides are starting to shift here in Cincinnati. He's also number 2 among all tight ends in the league in target rate. That's the percent of targets that you're getting on your routes run, with 36.4% of them. He's also number 3 at the position for fantasy points per route run, 0.61, number 7 in target separation. So I think he's a guy who, if he can get a little more volume here, he's being productive with what he's getting. So if we can see it, maybe that role expand, maybe this grows as well. The Bengals have the second worst scoring defense, as we noted earlier in the show. They're also in 7th in yards allowed. So the game script will be in Erick All Jr. favor more often than not. The Bengals are also 1-4 guys, so they have to kind of figure out, hey, should we start sending this guy out there more and more to see what we have in this 4th round tight end out of Iowa? Meanwhile, tight end university. So I'm in on Erick All Jr. here, guys. He's someone that if I need a tight end still, I'm thinking about adding.